Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. When I first met Clara, she was a burst of color in my otherwise gray world. She had this energy that drew people in, a brightness that made everyone want to be around her. I was no exception. She wasn't just beautiful. She was magnetic. When she laughed, the room seemed lighter, and when she spoke, people listened. I fell for her slowly at first, but when I did, it felt like falling off a cliff. Sudden, unstoppable, and terrifying in the best way possible. We met through mutual friends at a small cafe one rainy evening. I remember her sitting by the window, sipping coffee, her eyes lost in thought as raindrops painted trails down the glass. I was drawn to her stillness. She looked peaceful, but her eyes had a kind of quiet sadness that made me curious. Our first conversation was about music, then books, and by the time the cafe closed, we'd realized we both hated small talk, but loved deep conversations that lasted into the night. Over the next few weeks, we started meeting more often. She had this way of making me forget about time. We'd talk for hours about dreams, fears, memories, and everything in between. Eventually, friendship turned into something deeper. I didn't even realize when it happened, but one night, as we sat under the stars on our apartment's balcony, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said softly, "You make me feel safe." That was it. That was the moment my heart was no longer mine. Being with Clara was easy at first. She was kind, thoughtful, and full of life. But there was one thing about her that I didn't fully understand: her attachment to her friends. She had a close-knit circle of people she'd known since high school, and to her, they were like family. I respected that. I admired her loyalty. But as time passed, I began to notice something. I was always second place. If her friends called, she would cancel our plans without hesitation. If they needed help, she would drop everything to be there. And if I ever expressed how that made me feel, she would smile, cup my face gently, and say, "Love can wait, but friendship can't. They've been here before you, and they'll be here after." The first time she said those words, I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded and told myself it was fine. After all, she wasn't wrong. Friends are important. But over time, that sentence started echoing in my head, especially during moments when I sat alone in a restaurant, waiting for her to show up, only to get a text saying, "Sorry, babe, Mia needs me right now." Rain check. I told myself to be understanding. Maybe I was just being needy. Maybe this was how relationships were, a constant balance between love and independence. But deep down, a small part of me felt like I was fighting for a place in her life that she had already filled with others. One evening, I planned a surprise for her, dinner at her favorite restaurant and a small trip for the weekend. I'd been working extra hours, saving up just to make it special. I wanted to show her how much she meant to me. But that evening, just as I was about to pick her up, she called. "Hey," she said softly, her voice hesitant. "Can we take a rain check tonight? Dylan just broke up with his girlfriend, and he's really not okay." I promised I'd be there for him. I stayed quiet for a moment, staring at the table I'd set, candles flickering softly in the dim light of my apartment. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was tired. "Yeah," I finally said. "Sure, go ahead." "Thank you for understanding," she replied with relief. "You're the best." When I hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching the candles burn down. The food got cold, and so did something inside me. A few days later, when she came over, she acted as if nothing had happened. She hugged me tightly and started talking about her friend's breakup, like it was the most important thing in the world. I listened, pretending to care, but my mind was elsewhere. I wondered if she would ever put me first, even once. As months went by, this pattern continued. Every time I tried to get closer, something or someone else would take priority. Her world revolved around her friends, group chats, movie nights, last-minute plans, and emotional emergencies. I started feeling like a visitor in her life rather than a part of it. I remember one night vividly. We were at her apartment, and I finally decided to talk about it. "Clara," I began quietly, Do you ever feel like you give so much of yourself to everyone else that there's nothing left for us? She looked at me, her brow furrowing slightly. What do you mean? I mean, I sighed. I feel like you're always there for everyone else, but when it comes to us, it's like we're on pause. I'm not asking you to choose, but sometimes I just wish you'd make me a priority. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she smiled, that soft, understanding smile she always used when she thought I was being overly sensitive. She reached for my hand and said, "You don't get it, do you? These people have been in my life for years. They've seen me at my worst. Love can wait, but friendship can't. Friends are forever." Her words stung more than I expected. I tried to smile back, but inside, I felt something crumble. I realized then that no matter how much love I gave her, I would always come second to a world I wasn't part of. Still, I tried to make it work. I told myself love required patience. Maybe she'd eventually see how much I cared. I became quieter, more accommodating. I stopped complaining when she canceled plans, stopped asking when she'd be free. I adjusted her schedule, learned to accept that sometimes love had to take the back seat. But the truth is, love doesn't thrive in silence. It withers, and ours was slowly dying. There was one particular night that broke me completely. It was my birthday, and Clara had promised to spend the evening with me. I was genuinely excited. It had been months since we'd had any real time together. I got reservations at a cozy rooftop restaurant and bought her a small bracelet with her initials engraved as a token of how much she meant to me. She texted me an hour before dinner. "Hey, babe, I'm so sorry. Jen's car broke down and she's stuck across town. I have to go help her. You understand, right? We can celebrate tomorrow, I promise." I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply immediately because I didn't know what to say anymore. How you explain to someone that you're tired of always understanding, that being the one who gets it doesn't feel noble anymore. It just hurts. I ended up going to the restaurant alone. The waiter gave me a sympathetic smile as he cleared away the second plate. I told him she'd join me later, but we both knew she wouldn't. When I got home that night, my phone buzzed with a message from her. "Hope your day was good. I'll make it up to you. I promise. Love you, Red Heart." I didn't reply. That was the moment I realized I wasn't in a relationship anymore. I was in a waiting room, waiting for her attention, waiting for her to remember me, waiting for love that was always postponed. Over the next few weeks, I started pulling away slowly, not to hurt her, but to save myself. I stopped initiating conversations. I stopped planning things. I stopped waiting for her to make me feel like I mattered. She noticed, of course. "Hey," she said one evening, "you've been quiet lately. Is everything okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel the same warmth I used to. "I'm just tired, Clara," I said softly. "Tired of what?" "Tired of being an option." She looked at me, confused, maybe even hurt, but she didn't say anything. I think she thought it was just another one of my moods, something that would pass like before, but it didn't, because this time, something inside me had shifted. I finally understood that love shouldn't be something you keep waiting for while someone tends to everything else. Love deserves presence, not leftovers. And even though I still loved her deeply, I knew, if I stayed, I'd slowly disappear in her world of maybe tomorrow and rain checks. That night, when I got home, I sat on my couch and stared at the photo of us on my phone. Her laughing, me looking at her like she was everything. And maybe she was. But I also realized that sometimes loving someone means knowing when to stop trying to compete for a place that was never meant for you. That realization hurt more than anything she'd ever said. But it was the beginning of my quiet goodbye. The next few days felt strange, too quiet, too calm, like the air after a storm. Clara still texted me, still called occasionally, but I could sense her confusion between the lines. She could feel the distance, even though I hadn't said the words yet. I didn't stop her from reaching out, but I also didn't chase her anymore. My replies became shorter, colder, not out of anger, but because I no longer had the strength to pretend everything was fine. She noticed a difference one evening when she dropped by unannounced. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, working on a project. She walked in like she always used to, carrying takeout from our favorite Chinese place. "Hey," she said softly, trying to sound cheerful. "I brought dinner. Thought we could watch something and just hang out like old times." I looked up at her and smiled politely. "Sure," I said, closing my laptop. She set the food down, but I could tell she felt the shift. The warmth that used to exist between us was gone, replaced by something distant, polite. We ate quietly. She tried to start small talk, telling me stories about her friends. How Mia finally got a promotion, how Dylan was moving to another city, how Jen started dating someone new. I nodded, gave brief responses, but I didn't ask questions. Normally, I'd listen intently, laugh at her impressions, feel connected. But that night, I just couldn't. It all sounded like a world I didn't belong to anymore. After dinner, she finally asked, "Are you mad at me?" I looked at her carefully. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I'm not mad. Just tired." "Tired of what?" "Tired of trying to matter," I said quietly. "Tired of waiting for you to make time for us. Tired of hearing that love can wait." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she looked genuinely shaken. "You know I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that friendship is important too." "I know," I said, "and I respect that. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being your priority. You say love can wait, but I've been waiting for a long time, Clara. And every time you choose someone else over me, it feels like our relationship takes another step backward." She stayed quiet for a while, her fingers tracing the edge of her cup. "I never wanted you to feel like that," she whispered. "I know," I replied, "but intentions don't change the outcome." I kept telling myself you'd see how much I cared, but it's like I've been fighting for a place that doesn't exist anymore. Tears welled up in her eyes. "So what are you saying? You want to break up?" I hesitated. The word itself felt heavy, final. "I'm saying," I said slowly, "that maybe we want different things. You need space to be there for everyone, and I need someone who wants to be here, with me." She stood there for a moment, silent, her breathing uneven. "I thought you understood me," she said finally. "I thought you were different." "I did understand you," I said softly. "But maybe that's the problem. I understood you so much that I forgot to take care of myself." She didn't say anything after that. She just stood there, staring at me, her lips trembling slightly, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. Then she nodded, wiped her eyes, and quietly left. When the door closed behind her, I sat back down and felt an overwhelming mix of relief and sadness. I had loved her, truly, but I knew deep down this was the right thing to do. You can't build love on constant waiting. You can't keep giving someone all your time when they only give you what's left of theirs. Days turned into weeks. She didn't call, and I didn't reach out either. There were nights I missed her, the sound of her laugh, the way she'd tuck her hair behind her ear, the way she'd look at me like I was the only person in the world. But those memories were like soft echoes now, fading slowly into something distant. I started focusing on myself again, going to the gym, spending time with my own friends, rediscovering hobbies I had forgotten. Life began to feel lighter, freer. I didn't realize how much emotional weight I had been carrying until it was gone. One afternoon, a few months later, I was walking home from work when I saw her sitting at the same cafe where we first met. She was alone, sipping coffee by the window. For a second, I almost turned away, but then she looked up and saw me. Our eyes met, and time seemed to slow down. She smiled, a small, uncertain smile, and gestured for me to join her. I walked over and sat down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was filled with everything we'd been through. "You look good," she said finally. "Thanks," I replied. "So do you?" She nodded and looked down at her cup. "I've been thinking a lot," she said softly. "About us, about what I said." I didn't respond. I just let her speak. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she continued. "I thought being a good friend meant always being there for them no matter what. But I didn't realize I was pushing away the one person who was always there for me too. You were right. Love shouldn't have to wait." Her voice cracked slightly at the end, and she took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she whispered. for making you feel like you weren't enough. I looked at her and felt something shift inside me. Not the same love as before, but a quiet compassion. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, I said gently, but I needed to walk away to understand my worth. She nodded slowly. Do you think we could ever try again? I paused, searching for the right words. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe in another time, maybe if things were different. But right now, I think we both need to keep growing separately. She smiled sadly, her eyes glistening. I understand. We sat there for a while. Two people who had loved each other but learned that sometimes love alone is enough. Eventually, she stood up, gave me one last look, and walked out of the cafe. This time, I didn't feel heartbreak, just peace. After she left, I stayed behind, watching the rain begin to fall against the window. It reminded me of the day we first met. The difference was, this time, I wasn't searching for someone to complete me. I had learned to be enough for myself. As the days went on, I often thought about that phrase she used to say, love can wait, but friendship can't. It used to feel like a wound, but now it felt like a lesson. I realized that real love doesn't ask you to wait endlessly. Real love grows alongside everything else, friendship, ambition, independence, not in their shadow. Clara and I didn't end up together, but in some quiet way, she changed me. She taught me what I should never settle for, and what kind of love I truly deserved. The kind that shows up, stays present, and doesn't make you feel like you're competing for space in someone's heart. Months later, I received a message from her. It was short. Thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love back. I hope you're happy. I smiled as I read it. I typed a simple reply. I am. I hope you are too. Then I put my phone down and looked out the window. The world outside felt wide and open, full of possibilities. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, not waiting, not chasing, just living. And maybe that was a kind of love that didn't have to wait anymore.